As a teenager in high school, I started doing batik because I thought it was a really beautiful way to prepare fabric and make it really pretty. And so today I'm going to do a batik tablecloth. You have a frame here. It's a basic wooden frame, and you're going to tack your fabric to the frame, going all the way around. Pull it nice and taut like a membrane across the frame. So I'm going to put this down and show you a couple other things that I have on the table. I have done a drawing, like a little map of what I'm going to do here today. With batik, you really have to plan out what you're doing because you're using several colors. You want to know which colors are going to match, which colors are going to mix well. And this is basically going to be the design for my tablecloth. Lots of squares. And then within each square, put which color I'm going to put. Right. Now, the kind of dyes I recommend for doing batik are expensive, but they are the best dyes. They're called Procyon dyes, and it's a powder dye that you mix in cold water. Here I've got a couple brushes. You want different sizes of brush to paint on wax, paint on dye with. You're going to mix your wax. This is paraffin wax and this is beeswax. Here I've just got some regular household bicarbonate of soda, and this of course is my janting, and the wax goes in here and comes out here. It's a really nice tool for drawing with, and you can get these at Deltex craft shop, also the dyes, or any other craft shop. So the janting goes into the wax, and you have to basically dip several times until your janting gets nice and warm. I've got my wax heating here at a medium to low temperature because I don't want it to burn. I want it to keep, but yet if the wax isn't hot enough, it will not penetrate the fabric. So really what you want to do is, once you've got the wax flowing through the spout, what you want to do is try it out on a little piece of fabric. Now let me show you how this works. Now what you can do is, it's like a fountain pen. Let it forward and it drips, and then push it back and you'll stop the dripping. And I'm just going to basically do a little drawing on my fabric. And to make sure that the wax is hot enough, I'm going to look at the other side. It's not quite there, but what you'll see is that the wax is actually penetrating the fabric. If I opened it up here, you'll see that it's gone right through. When the wax isn't hot enough, it basically cools on the surface of the fabric. It doesn't penetrate the fabric. It will not resist any dye. So with no wax in the janting, I'm just going to practice the design that I've created, just to make sure, just get used to the way the janting flows on the fabric, and don't be afraid to move quite quickly with it. Treat it like it's a pen or a pencil, and you'll find it's much easier to manipulate, right? Okie dokie, let's give it a shot. So I've got my little piece of fabric here as my drip cloth. I want to dip several times. Basically, here we go. Okay, so because I am applying the wax initially to white fabric, wherever I put my wax lines is going to remain white. Whoops, getting a little wobbly there. Dot, dot, dot. Keep dipping the janting in the wax to make sure that what you've got in the chamber isn't cooling. I'm mixing the dyes in some little glass bowls. Glass is good because the dye won't stain the glass, but also you could have all little plastic containers that you're not using anymore. So I've got a teaspoon, and we're basically taking, now the powder for Procyon dyes is very, very fine, so handle it carefully. This is turquoise. It doesn't look anything like turquoise, but it will. A teaspoon of dye to a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda, right? And then I've got hot pink here. So again, teaspoon of dye to a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. Now I'm going to wipe the spoon because I'm going to dip it in the yellow and I don't want to get any wrong color. So we're making orange, right? So what I figure is if we go 2/3 of a teaspoon of yellow, ish, like that, and then 1/3 of a teaspoon of pink. Again, wipe off the teaspoon. Oh. 1/3 of a teaspoon of pink, say about that much. That should give us orange. So I'm going to pour water into all of these. Whoa! That is beautiful. So I'm just topping up my dye mixture with water. And then very carefully, because these things will stain like you wouldn't believe, and it's going to be very intense. So I'm going to mix up my pink. Make sure you dissolve the bicarbonate of soda as well as the Procyon dye. So that looks pretty good. Now, I've got a couple nice big fat brushes here. So I've got me pink. And you want to make sure that the dye is getting through to the second layer. So really brush it on. I like how it's looking, kind of Indian-y colors, very jewel-like. So I'm gonna just paint on the turquoise. As you can see, all the dye that I've painted on is now dry. So we're gonna wax. Again, I'm using a nice big fat brush. Depending on the design you have done, you vary the brush, right? And then I'm gonna go over everything that I've done. On the wax. So what I have to do is remove all the tacks. So take the fabric off your frame. The fabric is now stiff with wax. It can't flap about too much. It's no longer soft. And you're just gonna take a quick look and make sure that everything you want to have wax on it is completely covered and sealed. I have a little bit of touching up to do here. Right, now I think we are just about ready for our final dip. My whole piece of fabric is covered in wax except for the places that are white, and in the final dip those areas will go the color of the final dip, which is midnight blue. So what I have to do is grab this and scrunkle it up like that. I'm going to scrunkle it like that to crack the wax, to let some of the midnight blue into the areas that I've painted, but it'll just be like cracks of blue getting through. Now, to mix the dye for the dye bath, in a little bowl, you're going to go 3 teaspoons of Procyon dye. This one is called Midnight Blue. And then this is urea. It's like little white pebbles. 2 tablespoons of urea. And then 4 tablespoons of salt. 2, 3, 4. To this mixture, I'm going to add enough water to make a kind of runny paste. Mix it all up. All right, so rubber gloves time. I never used to wear rubber gloves, right? And what would happen is I'd walk around with pink hands and nails, and it would stick under my nails. Oh gosh! I have huge hands, so right. Okay, I think I've got it. Got it over the bracelets. Right. Yes, I've got a bucket of water here, and I'm going to add my dye to that. Okay. And then I'm going to dunk this lot in here. I'm going to turn this in the dye for about 5 minutes. I'm doing this because I want to make sure my fabric gets very evenly dyed, and then I haven't missed any spots, or that when it comes out of the dye bath, I don't want it to be sort of splodgy. All right, now try and drizzle the gloves off a little bit. I'm going to add a tablespoon of bicarbonate of soda to this mixture. Scrunkle it in, give it a stir. And now this has to rest in the dye bath for about half an hour to 40 minutes. I'm ready to hang it out. Now, this is where there's enormous potential for disaster. Just bring it out, squeeze it out, and then very carefully open it up. Looking nice. Just try and get it all straight. Hang it up. Whoops. I got all my nice pegs. And I'm going to let this dry completely. What you need are 2 buckets of water. One bucket is full of boiling hot water that has a little bit of soap powder in it, say 1 or 2 tablespoons. The other bucket has cold water in it, and then some sort of stick implement that you can use for stirring, right? Take your fabric and literally pop him in the hot water quickly, quick, in, stir him around, and then plunging, whoa, getting a bit of way back, directly into the cold water. And what you should find is that breaks up all the wax. You may have to do another dip. What you want to do is gather your batik into a bowl, wring it out. You'll find there are probably still little bits of wax, but the wax is all broken up because of the soap powder. So wring it out. I'm going to hang it up, let it dry, and when we come back, we will be making the most wonderful pak choy and beef dish and setting the table with our new batik tablecloth.